Thanks again. Okay, on the last section we looked at the facial features. What we're going to do this time is go into looking at the cues that tell us what's actually going on. How many times have you heard someone speak and everything they've said sounded perfect, but you just had that gut feeling something wasn't right? Okay. When it comes to communication, we've got the words, we've got the body language, and we've got the expressions. So we've got the tone of voice, the words, the tone of voice, and the body language. What percentage out of 100 do you think the words measure up to when you're talking to somebody face to face? 7%. Ah, you've heard this. What's the tone of voice? 38. The body language is the remaining 55%. Okay, so if you hear this one, you're talking to them on the phone. What percentage do the words go up to? Because you can't see the body anymore, can you? How high do you think the words go up? 17%. Because the tone of voice and the body language, as I said before, what you're feeling inside will be shown on your body. You grab a chair and you've got someone on the phone and you're leaning back, try and put on a really deep voice and drive the message home. You can't do it. You'll end up shifting in the seat. That's right. As soon as you change the physical expression, it changes your demeanour. So I really was happy when they brought out cordless phones before we had the mobiles, because I could then walk. So I do get puffed because one of the things I forget to do is to breathe when I'm walking and talking. So that cycle that we had earlier on, looking at where you fit on those numbers, no, I fail. I'm definitely a 0 on that one. But what it came down to was if I got the phone and I'm talking, I can walk, I can pace, I'm standing up straight. If I want to actually connect with somebody on a soul level, I'll sit down and be comfortable because my tone of voice and everything else changes. They say that we are about 17-18% logic and we're about 82-83% emotion. Well, that stacks up with the words, doesn't it? On the phone, when you can't see the person, they're 17%. And the body language, the tone of voice, comes over as a remaining section. And if you think about it, the emotions are through all your senses: visual, auditory, kinesthetic, olfactory and gustatory. So when it comes to the words, they're only still down at that lower end. So that's your logic. So the biggest connection you're going to have with anybody is not listening to the words they say, but the way they say it. And that's one of the reasons. And by the way, everybody in this room does this. When you were first born, before you had all those other things that we got involved with, sports, chasing boys, girls, education, cars, everything else that distracted us, we focused by looking at everybody around us and reading their emotions. How many children can push their parents to that point, but not over the edge? They know how to read you. It's all about the emotions and the expressions. So this is something that every one of you did perfectly as young children. As we get older, though, because of all those other things that we do, it's like any muscle. If you don't work it, it atrophies. So I'm not teaching people anything they don't know. I'm just that personal trainer. Remember when you were younger, you were fitter, and then you went and you had your family and you got involved in raising your family, paying mortgages and everything else. You didn't go to the gym as much. And all of a sudden, I hate full-length mirrors I saw in the motel last night. I looked at it and went, ooh, very unattractive. And I thought, yeah, you lose tone. So what do? You decide, okay, I'm going to get fit again. So you go and find yourself a personal trainer, don't you? So you can get back into being fit. That's all I am. I'm teaching you something, or not actually teaching you, I'm reminding you of something you already knew. That's why you can pick this stuff up really fast. And that's what we're going to be doing in the thing. But first of all, in NLP, they talk about our eyes move when we're talking. Remember there used to be an old saying that a salesperson, if their eyes moved, you can't trust them. Well, it's actually the other way around. If somebody's eyes don't move, then you can't trust them because they're running a lie. There's something that they've said over and over again. They don't have to think about it. If you ask somebody a question, and they're going to have to look to source the information. We all look up vertically, to either the left or the right, we look up for anything that's visual. Out to the side for what something sounds like. And when it comes to how does it feel and what's going on inside our head, our internal dialect of thinking, we look down. And everybody does this. 90% of people will look that way. If you're looking at that face, and say that was my face there, when you ask me to recall something visually, like if you ask me how many windows in the front of my house, and if I had to think about that, I'm going to go up to the left. Then if you ask me a question again of something I remember, so we were doing, you're investigating something, and I look the other way, you can go, ooh, that might be a little furphy there, because I'm now looking to where I construct an answer. So if I asked you how many windows in the front of your house, you'd probably look up. 90% of people will look that way. 10% will look this way, so they're cross-wired, but they'll always be up for a visual memory. I'll look up here, and then if I go, okay, well, if you took those windows out and you put a big landing and big sliding doors, what would it look like? Well, you can't remember it. You've got to visualise it. You've got to create it. They'll look the other way. It's one of the reasons why you'll see in all interrogations, investigations and everything else, the smart people who are doing the investigating, the police or whatever, will get the other person in a conversation. They're benchmarking them, working out which way they look for that information. Once they've got that, then they can start asking the questions they want answers to, and they're looking for any changes in that, looking the wrong way, the opposite ways. So if I said to you, we realise that this side now I've asked a few questions, had a bit of an idle chit-chat, it's been nice and friendly, and I've realised that this is where you remember stuff, and then I ask you, well, what did you hear? And the eyes go, boom, out here. I know you're making up the answer. You weren't there. So I can benchmark somebody very quickly. So that's what the eyes will actually give you. But don't assume, even though you've seen this, every NLP practitioner will talk about that's where the eyes go, 90% of people go there. It's not a given that everyone does. So you benchmark it by asking particular questions. But let's get into some more interesting stuff when we go to micro and subtle expressions. Now, everybody can recognise different expressions on the face. A micro expression, though, is real fast. When something is said to you or something happens around you, we respond unconsciously, and immediately you'll see it in the body language, you'll see it in an expression on the face. But then the conscious mind steps in and shuts it off. So a micro expression is as fast as 1/5 of a second down to 1/25 of a second. So what's that? 200 milliseconds down to 40 milliseconds. Real fast. Now, we were talking before and you were saying that you watch some of the newsreels and you go, person's lying. That is pretty true, because what you may be doing is then picking up those little expressions. Things don't correlate. Now, I was lousy at these when I first started. I now read them at an average of 96% at 1/10 of a second. So if somebody's lying, I'll pick it up. Now, most people would say that, what about polygraphs, lie detectors? They work on your physiology. So if you're nervous about being misjudged, you reckon you're going to give away false positives. And the thing picks it up and says you're lying. Somebody who thinks they're really good at lying, they're feeling really great in their body, they give false negatives. When they are lying, it says they're not lying. So, and I like the idea of the micro expressions. I normally don't tell people what I can read them at, not in a conversation in a group, but if I'm working with somebody and I think, right, I've got to find out if they're telling the truth or not, I will tell them, don't worry. I'll always treat them as though they're the one who might be misjudged or fearing me misjudged. And I'll say, look, don't worry about it, because this is the accuracy at what I read these things, so that if you're telling the truth, I'm going to know it, so relax. If they're the person who thinks they're really clever, they start to worry. As soon as they start to worry, they start to leak information through their face. If their face doesn't give it away, their body language will give it away. There's too much going on. If you look at somebody, you will see it in one place or another. If you're listening to somebody, and they make, politicians, we've mentioned before, you notice how politicians, they always have other people behind them when they're at an interview? I guarantee that those other people behind them are always the ones that agree with what they're going to talk about. Because they can't help it, they're nodding like this, or like little dogs on the back window. Because when you see that as well, you start doing the same thing. You know, if you want to get someone to agree with you, just start nodding, and it won't be long before they're nodding as well. So that's what happens. So so when you're watching it, watch the people around them. It's not just that one person. And first of all, I will make this comment. There's always an upside, there's always a downside of things. So if you're going to mention something, you've got to also compliment. You may have thought with the presenters that we've had this weekend that they've all got together and they've sort of planned out what they're going to talk about. It was really down to the fact of great planning by Stephen, by actually thinking about what he wanted and getting the right people in. We've just fallen into place with each other. We're just so connected because of the great planning. Now, on the other side, at the same time, Stephen was up here and he was talking yesterday. He mentioned about how he likes to be on stage and he likes to joke. He's got some great jokes. I looked at him and out of the corner of my eye, I could see Megan go, who is telling me the truth? Who am I going to believe? It's going to be Megan straight away. And today there were some more comments that were made, and so every time Steve made the comments, I looked straight out of the corner of my eye to watch Megan. I go, yeah, I know where the truth is. Sorry, mate. Yeah. Well, they probably are good, but Megan's heard them too many times, but there you go. But see, that's the thing. Other people will give away the information as well. And the whole thing is to relax when you're reading people. The more you get focused in, the more you get caught up in looking at a small area. When you look at somebody's face, it's always polite to look at the whole face. You're looking at all that region to make them feel comfortable. As a face reader's point of view, we're able to see all the features. We're also able to see all the expressions, because the expressions mainly happen in the eyebrows, around the eyes, and around the mouth. So we want to be able to see the whole lot. So a micro expression is fast. A subtle expression may only be the eyebrows, it might only be the eyes, it might only be the mouth. They're also very quick and brief. Because as I said, they're that 1/5 of a second to 1/25 of a second in duration. So they just start to appear and they're gone. Now the face has got 43 muscles in it, and there's over 10,000 expressions that the face can pull. Paul Ekman, who did all the research on the micro expressions, a psychologist from California, in 1969, there used to be a debate. Charles Darwin travelled the world and he said in all his journals that he couldn't understand what people were saying, but he could understand their emotions. All the anthropologists for the next 95 years, that's rubbish. He's talking about nature, something that's built into them, but this is really nurture, their response. So the cultures are different. So Paul set out as part of his training to go to Papua New Guinea. He sat in front of all the natives. They hadn't seen a white man before, so he went to a very remote place. He knew they hadn't seen TVs or anything else. And he would put down some photographs. He would say to a person, right, this person's just lost their child. And there's a whole bunch of photographs, which one? And they would point to the one with the sad face. So he realised that it doesn't matter if you've been born in a tribal village, a capital city, even if you've been blind from birth. Watch some of the athletes in the, blind athletes in the Olympics. You'll see the expression on their face straight away, those that are really happy, those that are worried, or those that think, they'll even get that surprised look on their face if the draw goes against them when they think they should have won. So they will respond, we all do. So we've got 3,000 expressions that Paul actually sat down with his colleagues and gave names to. It's a great little manual, it's about so thick, and where Clyde was talking about some of the journals and things that'll put you to sleep, I'll take him on that one, because this one will definitely put you to sleep. It's hundreds of hours of study to go through it, and every page in the digital version has embedded videos showing you how to move the muscles and everything else. So you can do that training, or would you like it nice and easy? Okay, 7 expressions are all you need to learn. And there they are. You've got fear, happiness, contempt, disgust, surprise, anger, and sadness. But what we're doing is we're reading them in their context, in the situation. Everything's always read in the situation. If I see a person's got a sad look on their face, what it was said at the time for that sad look. If I have somebody who says, oh yeah, so-and-so's my best friend, and then I say to them, oh yeah, so-and-so's just breaking up with their partner, and I see a little twitch of a smile, ooh, what's going on there? Maybe not so good friends. Or it could be other reasons as well. They deserved a kick in the bum, so I'm glad they've got that. Or, no, I thought their partner was really horrible and they're better off without them. Or, either their partner or them are now free. Oh, I got a shot. Could be a whole range of reasons. But you know that it didn't correlate to what they said before. I'm their best friend. But there's a twitch of a smile of happiness because there was something that happened that wasn't really that nice. So they're the only ones that you've got to learn, and that's what we're going to have a look at, a few of those, and each one of you are going to look at each other and try and pull the expression. But what they mean, because what it comes down to, if I smile at a woman in Western society, and I do it politely with respect, I'm going to get a smile back pretty much all the time. But if I do that with a woman in a tribal village, it's a no-no. She's not my woman. I don't have the right to do that. I will get anger or contempt or disgust from her, and from a partner I'll probably get speared. So that's what it comes down to. So it's, if you feel anger inside, you will have that angry expression on your face. And what anger is a goal obstruction. It's a violation. It's like, get out of my space, move away. The disgust, it's an offensive thing. It's either a smell or what you said really stunk. Oh, I don't like that. The person pulls away from you. Contempt, that's an immoral act where you usually feel above the person who's done said the thing or done the thing. So if you feel that way, you're going to have that expression. It doesn't matter where you come from. What caused the emotion can be cultural. As I said, with the tribal woman and the woman in Western society, completely different responses, but the feeling they had, that's the reason for it. The first one is anger. And this is in the face, in the eyes itself, you'll find that, oops, I'll get these things out of the way. You pull in. You pull the eyebrows together. And you really get that staring look where you're really looking into the person's face. Now, the mouth will do two things. It can either be open or it can be closed. You'll find that open mouth anger, the person's about to say something quite nasty. Closed mouth anger, well, that's the one I class as dangerous demeanour. And one of the things I'll do, if I go into, a hotel, for instance, the bands and everything else are playing, I have a look around and I can tell you who's plotting. Who's looking at, king hitting somebody from behind, already premeditated. Because they will have that sort of look on their face, really focused in on somebody. They may have their mouth opened at first, but as soon as it closes, that's when a person hits. Think about this. Try and think about if you've ever thrown a punch. Even do it now, just throw it out, and you'll feel your natural reaction is to close your mouth. Tensen up. Because if you don't do that, it's going to be a limp sort of punch. But to actually really put force into it, you clench your teeth and you close your mouth. So that's when it becomes dangerous demeanour. But if you said something to somebody, you would see that as a really fast flash, really quick. It's there and it's gone. So just have a look at each other and try and do that. Pull it with a closed mouth, tighten the lips and pull them back. Really push them together. Look really intense at the other person. But sort of try and feel the emotion as well. Okay, so while you're looking with that expression on your face, do you feel your mood change? What was that, sorry? Oh, well, first of all, yeah. So when they do the training with this, usually the class, everyone's got a mirror. And when they go through the facial action coding system, FACS, was the thing that Paul put together. And you would sit there and you've got, instead of using the Latin name for the muscles, they're given numbers. U for the upper, L for the lower, and different numbers. And it'll be a case of a particular expression will be made up of these couple of muscles. Might be this muscle first followed by that one. And so that's how you'd learn it. So you sit there with a mirror. If you can't pull them, you can't see them in other people. So you actually practice them. And they would work through 3,000 different expressions. Yeah, you talk about a long day. If you don't like yourself in the mirror, you'll get over it by the end of that training, I can tell you. But and that's the way it's done. So you pull that and get it really tight. There's your different examples of the closed mouth and the open mouth. See how when it pulls together, that's when that real line, if you've got a line there, it's going to really show because you're pulling the muscles in. You get that, and if with the closed mouth, you see how it's even more glazed in the eyes. It's more focused again. Now, one of the things, all this strength comes from when we tighten up. The other thing too is you'll actually see in the face, the colour will actually come to the face. Blood comes away from the feet, comes to the upper arms, it comes to the arms to fight, it comes to the face. So even when you're looking and talking to somebody, just the change in skin colour, which can be really fast, will give you away their emotions as well. As I say, you've got the expressions, you've got the body language, you've got all this other stuff. There's just so much stuff being given away when you're talking to someone. But, okay, this is outside of this, but would you mind standing up for a sec? Okay, just stand with your feet apart, and I'm going to push against your forehead, and if you would then try and stop me from pushing you back without moving your feet. You can see how that's not too hard to push back, right? Okay, open your mouth and relax. Easier. Push your tongue against the top of your mouth with your mouth shut. Yeah, so close your mouth and tongue up against the forehead, towards the roof of the mouth. Even less movement. Thank you. So when you push the tongue against the top of the mouth, it strengthens everything through here and it reacts right through the whole body. That's the power of how everything works together in your body. So if you see somebody who's closed the mouth and they've come up and they've got that look in their face, I don't look at their face anymore, I look here. Because if I'm looking at your face and you go to throw a punch, I've got Buckley's chance of stopping it. But if I'm looking at here and you go to throw a punch, I'll block it without any problems. It's funny how, because I'm focused here, I'm not caught up in the face, my reaction time is faster at that point. So I always, if I'm in a confrontation situation, I'll look at that person, I'll look them in the face, but I not only, this is where the looking at the body comes in really good. Instead of just looking here, I penetrate for here, but focus back here. It's almost like I'm boring through their head. That'll make somebody feel very uncomfortable very quickly. So if they are threatening, they're likely to back away. But if they keep coming, that's when I'll change my gaze because I want to be able to block it. Sorry, that's the years of martial arts. But have a look and see, do the expression again with each other and see whether you've got that expression as per there. Then you'll know you've got the anger right. Yeah. See, and that will be the case too, because we're in a friendly situation, we're around, and we feel a little bit silly when we're looking at somebody trying to pull it. But if you want to get this under your belt, when you go home and that, think about it, get in front of the mirror and pull the expressions. When you get past laughing at yourself, which it's always good anyway, if you look in the mirror, if you can laugh at yourself, there's not many things that are going to get you down. But then go right out, now I want to learn these so you can become serious. And practice them, and you'll see how well. Once you feel it, and you can feel it in your own face, the way it all develops, you'll see it in somebody else even faster again. Okay, disgust. In this particular one, it's more in the nose itself. What we actually have, the nose pulls up. We get the crinkling here in really extreme version of it, but the lip goes up as well. Again, it can be closed mouth because it not only it smells bad, so we don't want to taste it. So we do that. Or it's just pulled like that. So look at each other and just see if you can pull that expression. So how do you guys feel? Does that feel okay?
Yeah. I was just thinking what you said before about that guy. Not really hitting first, but be worried about it later.
Yeah, well, the whole thing is you've got more power when you don't get into that situation. I like to put, yeah. Do you protect yourself? Yeah. But the good thing is that when you're able to read someone that way, you can then steer it. Because some of those people, I've been able to talk them down really quickly. Exactly. See, anger is, it just goes berserk. and it just comes out and the person's got no control. My second oldest boy was living in Melbourne for a while, and he was living and working in Backpackers, and I went down to see him. And I'd been drinking in that because of the bar next door, and we'd been drinking for a few hours. And by this stage, you know, I had to go to the toilet. So where it was out the back door and around the corner into an alley. And I went to the back door, it was a big wooden door, and I pushed it, and it wouldn't move. So I really pushed into it. What I didn't realise was a couple of guys standing on the other side, and I knocked one of them right off the stairs. So when I went out, I just saw him, I was busting, so I just went. Back teeth were floating, straight to the toilet, came back, and I heard them through the window. They were going to get me when I came out. So when I came out, the first thing I did, I went straight up to the one I'd pushed off the stairs, grabbed him by the hand. So you can't throw a punch when you're like that. And I shook his hand. I said, "Look, mate, I'm really sorry." And I went motor mouth for a little bit, talking about how I was, you know what it's like. You've been drinking. You had to go, and I didn't realise someone was behind the door. And we're chatting. Next thing you know, he's buying me a beer. Just because I was able to connect him and divert the situation. Who's in control, him or me? So if I can get away from violence, I always will. So, did you feel how that felt? Pulling it up, you feel the crinkling in the nose, the upper lip, etc. And that will be whether somebody has said something or whether you've smelt something. How often we use the term, "Oh, what he said stunk." That's the contempt. Disgust. The other one, well, there's your open mouth and your closed mouth version of it. Anger and disgust. You can see the difference. Quite often they're confused with a quick expression on the face. They're confused with each other, but when you see them like that, see how they're so much different. The anger one can be dangerous. The other one is, I don't want to be around this, so they're not dangerous. They're going to pull away. But if you get either of those expressions while you're talking to somebody and explaining something to them, and you get a quick flash on their face, you know they didn't like what you'd actually said. And the open mouth version. Now, contempt, this one's the only one that's unilateral. It's the only one that's on one side of the face only. What you actually happen here is that it's just a raising of one side. So just try that. Pull up one side of the lip. Feels easy enough to do? Okay. Can you do the other side? Pull the other side up. I was just feeling in my pocket. This is where I would grab my phone, took a photograph, because it's not easy to do the other side. It's entertainment for me. Because everyone's going, yeah. So on this particular one, if you see it from somebody on a regular basis on one side, it's going to be that. But if I've been talking for a while, and now I've just started thinking about it, I start to itch. And the surface of the face around the mouth, the nerve endings are very close to the surface. So if I talk a lot, then you start to get itchy. So the end result is you go to scratch. Or you move the lip. And I was talking to a guy in, where was he now, Switzerland, who has been reading faces for a while, but I think he's getting himself a bit confused with it. We were talking and he said, "Oh, I'm seeing the look of contempt on your face a lot. What's going on?" Well, we only just met the guy. He sounded all right. We're having a great conversation. But I'd been on the phone with a lot of calls and everything else, and I'm itchy. So I was just moving the mouth as though he was reading it wrong. So it's got to be in the context. Have I said something that could have triggered that? Because what we were talking about was just a general conversation. There was no reason for any contempt to be there. Now, on that one, if you see that expression in your spouse's face, that or the contempt or disgust, you've got serious problems, especially if you see it frequently. Because disgust was, this smells, I don't like it, don't want to be around it. Contempt is, I'm above you. So if you're getting that from someone's face, you know straight away. The young guy goes up to somebody in the bar and starts chatting to them, and they're seeing that. I know straight away from the background, from where I'm standing, that one's going nowhere. Yeah. And in fact, reading in its right context is so important. I had a young guy in Newcastle. Actually, he was a guy who rang me earlier on. He's engaged now, and he's making sure I was coming to his engagement party next week. And we'd been at a networking do. We'd been drinking and everything else at one of the hotels. And I was walking back to my place. His office is on the way. He said, I'm going to walk with you. So we walked back to his office and said, we're having a good conversation. I'm going to keep coming with you. I'll leave you when you go off to your side street where my home is, back behind the main shopping centre. And we got down there. He goes, do you feel like a beer? And I went, mate, I'm not going to be your wingman. Because he wanted me to go to the pub with him and tell him, help him pick up girls. This was a few years ago. Not now, but it was years ago. So I said, no, I won't do that, but what I will do is you get the beers in and you can tell me what you think's going on and I'll tell you what's really going on. So we sat down, there's a young guy there with a woman next to him and they're chatting away and he says, oh, he's doing really well. I went, no, he's going home alone. He goes, how do you know that? He said, look, she's touching her hair, and this is why you've got to see it in context. She's touching her hair, but every time she touched her hair, he's standing here, remember? That's where her eyes are looking. There's a guy on the other side of the room. Her feet, as she's talking to this guy, the feet are facing that way. All the body language together was going, that's where I want to go. And he was looking at this other guy, and I said, no, he's going home alone as well. He was oblivious to what was going on. If he'd picked it up, he would have been right for the night. So at the end of the night, lights went on. They put the lights up in the hotel to tell you it's time. It's like cockroaches. They're all scurrying around to get their last drinks or actually trying to find a partner. And, these boys walked out, got in the cab and went home. And I heard the girls saying, well, we'll go up to Finnegan's, which is a hotel up the end of the road, Irish pub. We'll see what we can find up there. These girls, they had a really great night, cost them nothing, because the guys were buying their drinks. So he learned a lot over those couple of years, and that's why he's engaged now. Lovely girl. But as you can see there, see how it's just on that unilateral. The thing is that when you're profiling somebody, you don't have to just look straight on. Because if I turned around this way to you guys, and I've got that angry look on my face, you're going to be able to see it. If I've got the contempt, and it's on this side, which is the side I usually raise, you won't see it. All the other the ones you can see from there around, all the way around. If I turn my head anywhere in there and you're over here, you will see them. That one, though, will only be if you can see that side of my face. So slightly off angle, like to there, like at that position, or straight back here. If I come around to there, but if I come that little bit further, you can't see it. Okay, surprise. This one is the raising of the eyebrows. They just raise up, the eyes usually open up, and the mouth opens. Bit of sucking in a breath. By the way, if you see this expression on someone's face, and it lasts for more than, say, a half a second to a second, it's fake. It's put on. Because surprise always runs into something else. If I lunged out at you, there might be a look of surprise at first, but then you'll recover from that and that'll move on to something else. If I still look like I'm coming, this person here may then react in fear. Someone over here is looking at this, what's this clown going? So it becomes amusement or whatever, the expression will change. But it always, surprise always moves into one other expression. So that's that's in the longer version. But a micro expression, again, it's real quick. So if you say something and there's a quick flash of surprise, you'll know that they're surprised about it. So if you're talking about something they're supposed to know about, and you're mentioning something in there, and why were they surprised? They told me they knew all about it. So you really get the truth. So you can see how the eyebrows go up. They usually keep their same shape from what they were at neutral, but you get that opening of the eyes. It's almost like, startled deer in the headlights. Fear is an extreme version of it. It goes to the next stage, which is where the eyebrows go up and they even straighten out. There's a lot more crinkling in the forehead. It's more extreme. The mouth pulls back further. Fear and surprise can also be very much confused when it comes to micro-expressions, because fear, it's only very quick and then it's gone. You may only see the starting edge of it, and it comes across as surprise. But if you see either of those, you know there's a variation. So look at each other and just try, first of all, put the surprise look on your face. And I think I have the two together. Yeah. And you'll see the difference between the surprise and the fear. Just practice that with each other. See if you can really... Now, we'll go through a few more traits first, and then I'll come to that, what I was about to say. But okay, sadness. When you think of anger, the person usually moves in, the head comes down because there's a movement to strike. It's, get out of my space. Whereas with the sadness, it's shoulders usually drop as well. The mouth turns down. You end up getting that really, whereas anger, the eyebrows, if anything, they'll pull in and possibly go in that angle then. They'll sort of become pulled down in the middle. In sadness, goes the other way. So you can see the expression there. So look at each other and see if you can get the sadness on your face. Now, sometimes when you're doing these expressions, because if you're feeling happiness, it's hard to do this one, isn't it? So, as I say to people, think of something that you had a really bad time, a horrible time in your life, and then try and smile. The thought of the horrible time disappears straight. If you smile, the horrible thought leaves your mind straight away, because you can't do both. Your physiology and your neurology are linked, which is always a good tip. If you're having a bad time, just put a smile on your face. And if you're having trouble putting a smile on your face, as we've already found out, go look in the mirror. You can't be serious. You start to smile, you laugh, and think about some of your traits and go, oh yeah, well there's some real beauties in there. That's why, as I said, when I teach people, I talk about my negative traits, the downside of my traits. We all have a good laugh. People go, why did you tell me all that stuff? Well, what if somebody uses it against you? I gave it to you. How can you use it against me? Because I'm in control of it. I laugh about it. So it's about empowerment. Okay, happiness. This one, and by the way, the ladies who are worried about their crow's feet, these little laughter lines out here, they talk about beauty being only skin deep and ugly going all the way to the bone, as they used to say. If you have those lines out there, that's beauty that goes all the way to the bone. You don't get those, only two reasons why you get those little crow's feet. Out in the sun a lot, and you're always squinting and trying to keep the sun out, so you're really tightening up those orbital sockets, the muscles around your eyes. Or when you're really enjoying things, same muscles come into play and it goes tight. That's when you build those lines. How do you know which are which? Working in the sun or laughing a lot? It will be the difference between the outer surface and the inner surface. Are they finer or lighter coloured skin in the groove? If it's not, this person is a very happy person who smiles a lot. There are two types of smiles. There's your real happiness, and there's that social smile. They're both happy faces, but which one looks the happiest? Yeah. Number one is really the smile you put on your face, and I've done it before with one of my aunties when I was a kid. Thanks, Auntie, just what I needed, another pair of socks. Really love it. You won't get those smiles, those lines there. But if somebody says that they're a real great friend and they see you, haven't seen you for ages, and you get the expression on number two, they're truthful about it. If you get the one on number one, it's just a polite smile. So you know how deep the smile is. And again, back to the thinker, so it's a matter of applying this. But if you want to learn how to read these traits, or the expressions on someone's face, one of the things that we're taught to do, remember at school, listen to what's being said. Always listen, listen, listen. How much are the words worth? 7%? So we waste so much time, so much information is missed. So it should be a case, you were saying before about watching some of the newsreels and things like that, and going, they're telling lies. When I first started this, I did the training with Paul Ekman's group, but I also found that, when I first did my first course, it was in Sydney with another group, and there was a room full of, most of them were police officers. There was a guy from Westpac's IT section, an Asian guy, and myself. We had a video that they played, which was a guy being interviewed by a female reporter, and it was in Holland. No English whatsoever. It was all Dutch. And we were asked, who trusts, is this guy trustworthy? Two people in the room said no. One of them said, I wouldn't trust him as far as I could throw him. This guy was a big boy and I couldn't throw him very far at all. But all the police said yes, he was. It was me and the IT guy. We did our training at the end of the course. They played the video again, and all the cops are going, you should have seen the surprised look on their face. Was, yeah, wouldn't trust him. Because when it comes to police, you think about judges, forensic, people who run those lie detector tests, forensic psychologists, police officers, they're all told they have to focus on the words. They have to get you to tell them the truth. So they try and steer your conversation. And they say, well, we can't use the expressions because how do we show people what we actually saw? They can't film everything, and they haven't got time to go back through the whole reel. So they discounted the the expressions on the face and the body language. They just said, no, we can't take that in court. But all my courses now have been accepted by real estate, financial planners, the Law Society. I'm doing webinars for CPD for me, who are Law Society and all the lawyers and the CPAs. Doing those at the end of the month. I've also got Reflexology Association. All these different businesses now see my stuff as a professional development program. So if you're in those fields, you can get your CPD points for that year by doing the courses. Now the good thing about it is that people are understanding it's that connection. So even in law, they said, oh, we can't use it in the court, but if we detect something, we know then to change our questioning. It gives them a pre-warning. So if you're able to read it. So if you want to practice this without going to because people want to train with this, I train them on the facial features, I take them a bit through the expressions, I use the videos that they're taking them through slowly, but to actually build their speed up and do it on the computers, I send them to Paul Ekman, or his counterpart, David Matsumoto from Humantel, because they've already got this computerized. So you can buy the course and you can self-pace. But what you can actually do in the meantime, there is so many sources of this. You can go to YouTube. If you know there's going to be some politicians being interviewed, record it. Don't watch it at the time because you don't want to listen to it. You record it. When you play it back, sound off. And watch the body language, watch the expressions. And everything's going along, they're chatting away, and then all of a sudden you see, your brain will take that in. Watch it a few times, so when you do then play it back with the sound, your unconscious mind's going to go, that's where it was. So you're going to recognise, instead of passing out because your conscious mind didn't pick it up before, when the verbal was there, but now you've got that recognition. So you go, they're lying. That's when you'll have your proof of it. So if you want to practice this, YouTube, any political discussions, Donald Trump's out there, plenty, but pretty much he's always telling lies. But you can find others, especially when they're having discussions. But in that case, also watch the people behind them. I use one of Barack Obama. It's on YouTube, it's quite loud music that goes with it, but he's standing there, he's got two senators behind him, and they're chatting away at first, and all of a sudden, they look with surprise over to the left. And Barack Obama's just there, and no expression on his face at all. But what happened was, he's talking about something, and some guy over in the audience at the side yelled out, liar. So the two senators behind him straight away into surprise. How dare somebody do that? Barack Obama, on the other hand, no expression on his face. He turned around and he looked, but what they didn't see was the movement of the arm. That was anger. But he wasn't showing it on his face, so he controlled his face really well, but his body gives it away. So you look for everything. It's not just the expressions. Look for any other movements as well. Because if somebody is good at keeping their expressions down, their body will give it away. If they're good at controlling their body language, their facial will give it away. There's too much going on for somebody to consciously control it. We take in about, and the numbers vary depending on who you're training with. Some say 40,000, others say, well, there's about 2 million bits of information we process unconsciously through our 5 senses, visual, auditory, kinesthetic, etc. But we process 134 bits. It's 1/15,000th. Very minute amount to what actually we take in through our senses. We distort, we generalise, and we delete information to be able to deal with our day. Okay, everybody would have looked at these and said, that's a chair. That's also a seat over there. The chairs as you come in the door with a high back and the little studs on them, they're chairs. If we had to, we didn't have that ability to delete and all the rest of it, we would have to look at it each time and redefine what it is. That's why we're able to do that. That's why we can cope. There is no way that you can take in everything and consciously process it. It's one of the reasons why, mostly with kids with autism, have a hard time. It's not because they're dumb. Their problem is that they are hypersensitive. There's so much going on that their brain is picking up. So if we were able to pick up more, we would be more autistic. We'd fit that category. So when you look at kids with autism, go, hey, these are smart kids. And if you really spend some time with them, every one of them's got a gift. They can do some incredible things. So that's just not, sorry I get on that little high horse. The way we're looking at kids and judging them, it's wrong. But so that's one thing to do, is to go to the media, have a look at some of those and see what you can pick up. Play them with the sound and see how you go. Then go and watch other people. Not so much the conversations you're in. Like, this is one of the things why I train people. I take them to cafes. I take them to shopping centres. Because in those environments, look at all those resources walking around. And it's like I did with young Sharon going to the pub. We can sit back and observe. Watch the body language between people, see the connections. You know, you can sit there and have a great time. It's the best entertainment in the world. Watching other people and seeing how they react to each other. And you see somebody who's really excited and everything else, and you see the other person going. And you go, oh. And this other person's oblivious to it because they're right involved in what they're talking about. And then you see the other person. So observing other people really fine-tunes your own ability for when you get together with others. So, and that's always the thing, take it out of yourself. As I teach people, I'm doing a workshop with some boys or kids that have been out of work for quite some time for one of the JobLink groups. And what I'll be teaching them is how to interview the interviewer. So the focus goes off them. Now, if you've got that build confidence trait that I mentioned before, it's all about how I feel inside. Am I good enough? Am I whatever? I'll actually teach you to look at other people so that you concentrate on your clients. Any nervousness you got about yourself is gone. So it's always those connections. And I know I keep going back to the facial features, back to the body language, back to this. They're all connected. One tells me, if I'm talking, as I said before, with that the three circles, if I can read their personality, I can understand their traits, I know how to talk to them, and I've got the body language and the expressions to give me that confirmation. You have so much power when you're talking to a client to fully understand them. Take that time to do that, practice it. It doesn't have to cost you a lot of money to do this. As I said, use those newsreels, YouTube channels, etc. and play with it. Have a bit of fun. And then if you've got one and you want to go, well, did I read that right? Yeah, you've got friends, people that you know. Send them the link and ask them to have a look at it. So that's what really got me started with the media, because I'm a profiling and communication specialist. But when I first started, I was a face profiler. Then Channel 7 and other News Limited started getting me to go in and profile celebrities, politicians, sports stars, The Bachelor, things like that. And so the end result, they started calling me the celebrity profiler. So I went, I'll take that. I used it. Now, last year, as I said, 2 years ago, I was training. I got invited by Disney Films and Gillette, flown to London to Pinewood Studios to be interviewed by the world's press. They paid for this big time as well. For me to be interviewed by the world's press to explain to them the stories the face tells. Gillette were launching their new razor called Rogue One, and Disney Films had Rogue One, the new Star Wars movie coming out. And they did an ad together. So it's all about the razor with all the stormtroopers and everything else. Brilliant ad, absolutely fantastic. $24 million ad. That's when I realised I could put another zero on what I asked. But great opportunity. Then last year, that gave me the status and got people talking about me. But last year, in August, Federal Police. So a bit hard for them to turn around and say, we hired the celebrity profiler. So to get more work in those areas, I've dropped that title. But what I found was that in reading of people in all those situations, you really pick things up. So the more you practice this, just in your own time, you'll find it really easy. Micro expressions aren't hard. Now, my background was 2 marriages broken up, a lot of relationships, business partners who ripped off the bank account and everything else. I was crap at reading people. If I can be as good as I am, I'm now classed by the Guardian newspaper and others as a leading authority on reading faces globally. If I can be as good as I am, Just imagine how good you guys can be when you didn't have such a shitty background as I had. So practice it, give yourself time to learn. Watch for micro expressions, that will tell you a lot. But never take and go, oh, I saw contempt on their face. What was the context? Was it only the one look? What was the rest of the indications I'm getting? So it's a case of, in context, if are they congruent with the situation, and take them in clusters. One trait on its own is not enough. This is folded arms. What are you told about that one? It's a barrier? Well, it could also be keeping the cold out. It could be that I'm intimidated by you because I've got you on a pedestal. So when I'm talking to you, I'm giving myself a warm hug to feel comfortable. What's the rest of my body doing? If I'm facing towards you, leaning in, asking you questions, nodding and everything else, this is nothing. But when I unfold my arms, that tells you that I'm really connected with you now. So it's the changes we look for that are more important than anything else. So everything in context. But just take your time. Read somebody, take that little bit of information, go, okay. Remember when in the old days, with my parents, we had ducks on the wall. A big duck, a smaller duck, and a smaller one. So they're all flying in the same direction. You do the same thing with this. You look for indicators and you go, how many are all going in the same direction? If there's some going that way, you go, well, geez, I better recheck this. Don't assume. Get them all in the one direction and you got it right. So just take your time with it. What I do outside of that, as I said, I put my full courses face-to-face for one thing. I then started putting courses online. The dating one I put up has actually been used, came from business. Is that person on the LinkedIn page who they say they are? Can they do that work? So taking it one more level, is that person on the dating site a predator or not? Are they really who they say they are? Do they like the long walks on the beach? No, they don't. Don't go near them. Which way do you swipe if you want to get rid of them? Left or right? I don't know. And then that's where those courses went. But the best way, anyone wants to get in touch with me, I prefer, instead of emails backwards and forwards, let's have a chat. I make life really simple. If you want to go to my YouTube channel, if you want to go to my Facebook, all you do is put in my website, / and the word. YouTube will take you to my YouTube channel. Instagram will take you to my Instagram, which I haven't learned to use yet. Facebook will take you to my personal Facebook page. Business Facebook page is one word. You've got my business page. Call, we'll book in a 15-minute, goes to my calendar, so you know when I'm free, saves going backwards and forwards. You go, oh, that time fits me, and we can have a chat. But be aware, I'll probably want to have you on Zoom where I can see you. Because especially if you come to me and say, and this is one thing you guys can do, if you've got LinkedIn profiles, just send me a message and say, well, my email address is really alan@alanstevens.com.au. Just send me an email, say, mention, here, this weekend, and link to your LinkedIn page, and I'll have a look at it. Then I'll send you a message, book a call in, because then I'll tell you what your face is actually projecting. Is it doing the best thing for you, for the clients that are looking at you? And what you've written about yourself, do they correlate, how you can change that? And I'll do that as a freebie. But I always do it face to face, because then I can explain, I can share my screen, and I can have yours, and I can say, well, look at this, see how we can change. It might just be a matter of cropping the photograph so the head's in a slightly different position. Or it might be change the image because it's projecting the wrong thing. So we can do that, and I'll happily do that for you. Okay.
All right, wonderful. Give him a big round of applause. Thank you, Alan.